Stop the Amhara genocide.
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 What I would like to say for the international community, especially for the human rights organizations, as well as international media, is that you are doing an absolutely optimal work of covering the ongoing genocide against Amhara people in Ethiopia. The Amhara people have been targeted on and off for the past 30 years, ever since the ethnic federalism system was imposed on our nation. However, the gruesome nature of the attacks as well as the consistency has increased in the past 3 years, ever since the so-called political reform was undergone by the ruling party, EPRDF. No, we are not saying others have not suffered. War, corruption, land grab has all been a reason for grievance among Ethiopians of many walks of lives and identities. However, no other identity has been systematically targeted right from the highest laws of the land, the federal and regional constitutions that deliberately leave out Amharas, opening them for the attacks that we are witnessing today. In the aftermath of every single attack, the UNHRC, the Amnesty, the Human Rights Watch, as well as other human rights outfits have been receiving solid evidence of crimes against humanity committed on the Amhara people. The crime targeted from very elderly and senior citizens up to the unborn Amharas and everyone in between. Despite the shocking, gruesome detail of how this community was attacked across the nation, none of the above-mentioned mandated organizations highlighted the grave human suffering experienced by Amharas. What is worse than not having an ombudsman is to have one that partially advocates for victims. In addition, when these organizations are given the mandate to select which human sufferings get attention by the legislators of the most powerful nations on our planet, you can quickly see how one can easily rig and cover up an atrocity by sabotaging these mandated organizations. Although the blame squarely rests on the perpetrators of the crime, as well as the government officials who did not protect these civilians, I truly believe that, and my colleagues here all believe that, these mandated organizations selectively table agendas on their reports is the reason why the plights of the suffering Amharas have not been heard. We plead with our legislators, the government as well as the court system to look into the inner workings of these human rights think tanks, organizations and institutions so that they do not grossly unfairly make their decisions on partial information. You don't need to be misled in your attempt to dispense fair and balanced political, economic, and financial and human rights related decisions on rigged and partial human rights organizations' decisions. We advocate for you to look into these organizations and please help us stop this horrific genocide against the Amhara people in Ethiopia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There is a genocide happening to the Amhara peoples of Ethiopia. Let me repeat that. There is a genocide happening to the Amhara peoples of Ethiopia. This genocide is so bad that the other minority ethnic groups who look or sound similar to us are also getting attacked. Let me repeat that. The other minority ethnic groups who look or sound like us are also getting attacked. The primary targets of this genocide is Amharic-speaking Orthodox Christians. This genocide is both a physical genocide to wipe out a people, but also a cultural genocide, as measures were imposed to cripple the Amhara language and identity. The main perpetrators of this ethnic cleansing of the Amhara and the Amharic-speaking ethnic groups are the extremist wings of the Oromo and Tigray peoples. It is by no coincidence that these atrocities picked up steam when the Tigrayan supremacist political group called TPLF was placed in power over Ethiopia in 1991. with the help of the United States government of all things, through the guidance of a man named Herman Cohen. And Herman Cohen has again opened his ugly, filthy mouth about Ethiopia. This Tigrayan supremacist group ideology is very similar to a Nazi belief system. Let's call it what it is. And the TPLF set up an apartheid-style government that has existed in Ethiopia for 30 years. We realized very quickly that the Tigrayan supremacists and Oromo extremist regime associated the Amhara identity with a strong, united Ethiopia. So by choking and massacring the Amhara identity, these extremist groups would work effectively to break Ethiopia. During this 30-year period, somewhere between 3 and 5 million Amharas have either been killed directly or forced sterilization programs imposed by TPF leaders, which include the current World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom, the same man who is responsible for hiding the deadliness of the COVID-19 from the world, who is involved in the corruption, murder, and ethnic cleansing of Ethiopia. We are asking the world to help stop the genocide against the Amhara peoples of Ethiopia. But why should Americans care? Ethiopia was a close ally of the United States during the Emperor Haile Selassie regime. Ethiopia had strong diplomatic relations with the United States for over 100 years. But recently it was the American politicians that helped empower and cover up the atrocities committed by the TPLF and Oromo extremists. In most cases, of all things, it was the Democrats that helped to impose and empower the TPLF regime. Susan Rice, again, has opened her ugly, nasty mouth about Ethiopia. During the Obama administration, she was the main enabler of the TPLF regime, and it scares us that she continues to support them. There have been attempts by TPLF Tigrayan supremacist party supporters to run for U.S. government office. We know of that both in the West Coast and in the East Coast, this Nazi ideology trying to infiltrate U.S. government offices. I came to Minnesota because the main hub in the United States for the Oromo extremists who finance and organize this genocide is right here down the street.
Yes.
I'm here to tell them I'm not afraid of you.
Yes.
We're not afraid of you.
We're not afraid of you.
Their legal wing is also here on University right down the street.
Yes.
And they're financing, lobbying, and terrorizing the Amhara people in Ethiopia, and also terrorizing the Amhara people here in St. Paul and Minneapolis.
Yes.
Just last summer, Amhara businesses were targeted and burned. Amhara women were attacked walking home from work. So not are they only so brazen and so bold to kill and murder Amharas in Ethiopia, they're so bold and brazen to attack Amharas here in the United States.
Yes.
I find this unacceptable. Not coincidentally, back in Ethiopia, especially in the so-called Oromia region, Amhara homes and businesses have been physically marked, and then the people massacred afterwards. What does that sound like to you? When a home is marked, the same thing happened to the Jews in Nazi Germany. These are all signs of true genocide. When I talk about massacre, I mean women having their unborn babies cut out of their stomachs. Body parts chopped off and put on display. Genitals cut off and these Oromo extremists taking pictures proudly. In the Benishangul Gumuz region that didn't exist until the TPLF came to power 30 years ago, they've been eating Amhara body parts and organs.
Yep. Yes. Yes.
And yet Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch say nothing about what's happening to the Amhara people of Ethiopia.
Silent.
Completely silent. And they fabricate all kinds of tales about other things.
Yes.
In just the past few months, in the Benishangul region of Ethiopia alone, 2,000 Amhara innocents have been massacred and about 250,000 displaced. That's only in one region. That doesn't count the others. Here in Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar and Ilhan Omar were, I would say, given wrong information, and at one time spoke in support of some of the Oromo terrorists that lived here in Minnesota. Both of them need to apologize.
Yes.
Yes.
Both of them need to come forward and say that they did not talk with the rest of the Ethiopian and Amhara community here in Minnesota.
Yes.
These Oromo extremists that we're speaking of help organize some of these genocidal attacks in Ethiopia. We hope Senator Klobuchar works with our representatives to condemn these extremist groups. Ilhan Omar's office has been in contact with our representatives, and we are sure we will continue to make progress with her. Thank you, Ilhan Omar. Secretary Blinken and Karen Bass, however, in a hearing did grossly misrepresent facts about Ethiopia and specifically about the Amhara people. We call upon them to retract their statements and to apologize to the Amhara people. We firmly request Secretary Blinken and the State Department immediately have meetings with members of our community so we can advise them, not the TPLF, about what's happening in Ethiopia. To President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, we think you're good people, but you haven't spoken to us. We asked for meetings with you. We were the main African community that pushed for you to be elected. I was included in that. I pushed Ethiopians that didn't want to vote Democrat. I pushed them because it was good for America. But now it looks like representatives of the Democratic Party have betrayed us and turned their backs on us. That, I find, is unacceptable. President Joe Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, give us the opportunity to give you accurate information to make efforts to making sure that Ethiopia remains an ally to the United States and isn't pushed to cut ties and get closer with Russia and China.
Yes.
To Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed of Ethiopia, I have too many words to say to you. I'll try to keep it brief. We are very concerned and extremely confused. Your primary job is to protect the people. We have seen too many times that you have remained silent when it comes to the genocide of the Amhara people. We find this unacceptable. The solutions are very simple. Immediately correct the ethnic-based system that TPLF created. Immediately correct the ethnic system that the Oromo extremists want to continue to impose on the Ethiopian people. Eliminate the ethnic-based borders and return to the original 13 provinces. Assign locally respected provincial governors, not ethnic-based governors. Ban ethnic political parties and ban regional flags. One beautiful flag for one beautiful Ethiopia. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, immediately protect the Amhara people. And if you cannot protect them, give them arms to protect themselves and appoint Amhara local militia leaders to lead them. But that's not enough, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. We demand that the Oromia regional government be arrested and investigated and prosecuted for their involvement in the ethnic-based massacres. This includes the arrest and prosecution of Shimelis Abdisa. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, you have an option to fix Ethiopia. You're in a special position to fix Ethiopia. You're in a special position to protect the Ethiopian people, to heal the wounds of the Ethiopian people. You tell us why you haven't done that yet. You've had 3 years. The Amhara people supported you. The Amhara people protect the minorities of Ethiopia for not hundreds, but thousands of years. It's time that we are protected also. It's time that Ethiopia stand with the Amhara people.
This is a clear message we need to send to the government of Ethiopia and for the international community to hear us to stop the killing, the genocide against the Amhara people.
Stop genocide against the Amhara people in Ethiopia.
We can say it is a continuation of the last 30, 40 years of the TPLF-led government. However, in the last 3 years, there's a transition going on in Ethiopia. The people were hoping peace is coming at last. However, that continued. They duplicated and duplicated and continued until today. And people are being killed as we speak. In the Oromo region of Ethiopia, the Benishangul Gumuz region of Ethiopia, people are killed as we speak. It's not man to man. It's not hard to power. It's the government, regional government sponsored terrorist act, killing children, innocent people. It's in the media. We have a touch for your good news organization. We have saved an attachment of the atrocities committed this last 3 years. Of course, it was the continuation of the last 30 years of wrong government policy that is leading the country based on its policy, its constitution is killing and dismantling Ethiopia. And some are using them strategically by dismantling Amhara. They can dismantle Ethiopia. And Amhara is a strong glue of the country. And once again we say, stop killing the Amhara people. That's all we demand from the government. There are gruesome pictures, there are gruesome videos that you can find in Facebook, in Google, everywhere. We cannot be tolerant to see. Leave alone, we should leave that situation. So we demand the government of Dr. Abiy Ahmed, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia. The Amhara people was the first and the most who came out in support of the transitional government, Dr. Abiy Ahmed. However, the Amhara people are getting the bad side, the killing, the murder, and the ethnic cleansing. Once again, we want to end our message. Stop genocide Amhara people in Ethiopia. This is our clear message. We do not have any other intention right now, today. Today we say, stop genocide against Amhara people in Ethiopia.
Stop genocide against Amhara people in Ethiopia.
You might see our numbers might not seem big here. However, Amharas all in the world, Amharas in Ethiopia, they are crying deep in their heart. We are crying, bleeding in our hearts. We cannot tolerate any longer seeing the genocide against our Amhara people. We cannot tolerate those pictures. If you go Google, Facebook it, we cannot, our hearts cannot handle that any longer. So once again, we send a message to the government of Ethiopia to please stop killing our people. Amnesty International, all world organizations, we're airing our concern. We're crying loud. Help us listen to our cries to stop the killing of our people. That's our message today. Thank you so much, Eyewitness News. Thank you. We appreciate you coming and taking our voice.
Amnesty International. Your silence is deafening. Stop genocide against Amharas. UNHRC. There is ongoing genocide against Amharas. In Ethiopia. You have the mandate to stop it. Oromo Liberation Front. Crime against humanity. Must be stopped. Displaced Amharas. Must be protected now. Human Rights Watch. Accept Amhara's rights. Oromo Liberation Front is a legalized genocider in Ethiopia. Stop Amhara genocide in Oromo region. In Ethiopia. Wolaga massacre. Oromo terrorism in Ethiopia. Keeps costing innocent Amhara lives. Amhara genocide. Don't be silent. Amhara Hizbullah Yibqa.
በዚህ አጋጣሚ የአማራ ህብረተሰብ ማህበር እንደዚህ አዘጋጅቶ ሀዘናችንን አንድ ላይ እንድንወጣ የሚያሳዝነው ነገር እንድንቃወም ስላመቻቹልን ይህንንም ብላችሁ ደግሞ ወደ እኔ ብላችሁ የተሰባሰባችሁ ሁላችሁም ኢትዮጵያኖች በጣም እናንተ ማለት ስለተገኘው ክብር ይሰማኛል። ወገኖቼ ከዚህ በተሻለ አርዕስት ብንገናኝ ምን ያህል በመረጥኩ ነበር። ጥያቄው ከዲሞክራሲ ጥያቄ ወርዶ ጭራሽ አትግደሉን ደግሞ ህፃናቶቻችንን አትጨፍጭፉ ወደ ማለት ወርዷል። ለዚሁም አገር እንዳትፈርስ፣ የውጭ ጠላት እንዳይመታን፣ ህወሓት እንዳይመለስ በሚል ብዙ ዛቻና ግርግር ይኸው 3 ዓመት ያላባራ የዘር ጭፍጨፋ በአማራው ላይ ተደርጓል። ይህ ሁሉ ሲሆን እንኳን ተጠያቂነት ኖሮ ድርጊቱን የሚፈጽሙት ወደ ፍርድ ሊቀርቡ ይቅርና ስላቅ በሚመስል መልኩ እየተገደለም ዝም በማለቱ ጭራሽ ይህንን መንግስት ደግፎ ያቆመው አዲሱ ነፍጠኛ ወይም ኒዮ ነፍጠኛ ነው በማለት አማራን ጭራሽ በአዲስ መንፈስ ለማስጨፍጨፍ ተገንጣይ የሚባሉት ሁሉ ቡድኖች የኖረ ቅሬታቸውን ወደ ኋላ አድርገው አብረው እየሰሩበት ነው። ዝምታው ተገድሎ ሊያኖራት የወሰነውንም አገር ላያቆይለት ጭፍጨፋው ነፍስ ካወቁት አልፎ ህፃናትን ሲጨምር በቃ ከማለት በቀር የአማራ ህዝብ ምንም አይነት አማራጭ የለውም። ድሮውንም 30 ዓመት ሙሉ ባልመረጠው ስርዓት በማይፈልገው መታወቂያና ወንድም ከወንድሙ በሚያጋድል አስተዳደር ስር የቆየው አሁንም አገርን ከማክበር የራሱን ጉዳይ ብቻ አግንኖ ካለማውጣት እንጂ የትኛው አማራ የዘር መደራጀትን ደግፎ ነው አሁን ለተፈጠረ የዘር መጥፋት ተመልሶ ሊከሰስ የሚችለው? የዚህ ሁሉ መከራ መነሻ በሐሰት ትርክት የተነዛው ጥላቻ ሲሆን መከራው እንዲበረታ ያደረገው ግን የአማራ ህዝብ ቅጥ ያጣ ትዕግስት ነው። ትዕግስት ፍርሃት ጥላቻ ከሚመስላቸው አፍራሽ ኃይሎች ጋር በሰዋዊ ስርዓት መግባባት እንደማይቻል ግን የተረዳው እንኳን ሊጎዷቸው ለመንካት እንኳን የሚሳሳላቸውን ህፃናት የከታተፉ ቀን ነው። አንድ ማህበረሰብ ከእሱ ሁሉ ደካማዎቹንና እንክብካቤ የሚያስፈልጋቸውን ማጥቃት ከጀመረ የመጨረሻው መጀመሪያ ነው ማለት ነው። ይህንን ሁሉ ተረባርቦ ማስቆም ያልቻለ ተጠቂ ደግሞ መጨረሻውኑ መጥፋት እጣ ፈንታ ይሆናል። ስለዚህ ወገኖቼ ከእንግዲህ በጭካኔያቸው ብዛት መደነቅ፣ መደናገጥና ግራ መጋባቱ ቆሞ ይህንን አይነት ነገር ሁለተኛ በዓይናችን የማናይበትን መፍትሄ ማምጣት ግድ ይለናል። የመፍትሄው መጀመሪያ ደግሞ አገር ቤት ተጠቂው ማህበረሰብ በተቻለ መጠን በቀላሉ ሊጠቃ የሚችለውን የማህበረሰቡን ክፍል ህፃናትን፣ አረጋዊዎችን ተደራጅተው መጠበቅ መከላከል ሲኖርበት ውጪ የምንኖረው ደግሞ ምን እየተደረገ እንዳለ ደከመን ሰለቸን ሳንል ለዓለም ማሳወቅ ይኖርብናል። እርግጥ ነው በጣም የምንወዳት ሀገራችንን በዚህ አይነቱ አረመናዊ ተግባር መታወቋ ቢያንገበግበንም ውሃው የፈሰሰው እኛ ስናሳውቅ ሳይሆን እነሱ እጃቸውን ንጹሃን ሰዎች ላይ ሲያነሱ ነው። ዓለም ተግባራቸውን ካላወቀ ወደፊት በእነሱ ስር የሚወድቀው ንጹህ ህዝብ ምን ያህል ሰቆቃ እንደሚጠብቀው መረዳት አያቅተንም። አሁን አማራ ላይ ያነጣጥሩ እንጂ ስልጣን ላይ ለመቆየት የማይጨርሱት ንጹህ ዜጋ አይኖርም። ስለዚህ በታሪክ አጋጣሚ ራሳችንን ከተገዳዮቹ መሃል ሳይሆን እዚህ ያገኘነው ለሰው ልጅ መትረፍ ምክንያት እንድንሆን ነው ብለን በጽኑ አምነን እነዚህ ንጹሃን አማራዎች እናም ሌሎች የተጠቁ የህብረተሰብ ክፍሎች ፍትህ እስከሚያገኙ ማጋለጣችንን ላናቆም ቃል መግባት አለብን። ለዚሁም ይህን ነጭ ጽጌረዳ ተምሳሌታችን አድርገን እንያዝ። እያንዳንዱ ንጹህ ነፍስ ፍትህ እስክታገኝ አንረሳችሁም፣ አንተዋችሁም። ከኔ ጋር በሉ። እያንዳንዷ ንጹህ ነፍስ ፍትህ እስክታገኝ አንረሳችሁም፣ አንተዋችሁም።
የተለያየ ሀገሮች ህዝቦች ናቸው፣ የተለያዩ ሀገሮች ዜጎች ናቸው ብሎ ለዩናይትድ ኔሽን አስመዝግቧል። እኛ የኢትዮጵያ ህዝብ ተኝተናል። የኢትዮጵያ ኮንስቲቲዩሽን ነው ብሎ ያስመዘገቡት ለዩናይትድ ኔሽን ኢትዮጵያን የሚወክል ሳይሆን ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ የተለያዩ አገሮችን የሚወክል ነው ብሎ ለዩናይትድ ኔሽን አስመዝግበዋል። ህወሓትና ኦኤልኤፍ ይህንን ተሸክመን ነው ያለነው። ያለ ኮንስቲቲዩሽን በየትኛውም ዓለም ላይ የአንድ ሀገር ህዝብ ሊኖር አይችልም። የኢትዮጵያ ህዝብ ግን ያለ ኮንስቲቲዩሽን በመንግስት ስር ቁጭ ብሎ ያለ ነው። አሁን ደግሞ